My name is Patricia Cahill. I'm from Ridgewood, New Jersey, transplant to Lancaster. I don't go by Patricia Cahill, I go by P. Cahill. First time I was ever abused, I was 5. It was by a priest. It was brutal. It happened for many years. I ended up having to have surgery for a mysterious, and then I've never been able to have children. So what happened at that time to me is pretty obvious right now, that either my mother had an abortion arranged for me or I had a miscarriage. So the next time it had happened to me, that was definitely domestic abuse. The next time it happened was a few years later when a nun came into my life and told me that the priest was a very sick man, and then she told me she would help me, and she gave me drugs and took me under her wing and into her bed, which I didn't know was an option. And she was also physically abusive. She was 20 years my senior. She was physically abusive to the point that she actually gave me to another priest on 2 different occasions. And this is not, sadly, this is not an unusual story. This is a lot of what happens in sexual abuse with children. It's trafficking. So I closed up. I didn't let anybody in for years. I was raised in the Catholic religion, and I was going to be a nun, so I was into it. Also, in the Catholic religion, you know, the Almighty Father is the big guy. And my father was not an especially nice guy. And the priest, Father Dan, who got me, was really a bad guy. So the whole Father thing and the whole God thing, Jesus Christ thing, just did not mix for me at all. You know, I was going to be a nun. It was going to be my life until a nun became one of my abusers and really messed me up. With that added on to, as early as I can remember, when you go to bed at night, you pray to God, to Father, to the Almighty Father. And I was in it. I got down on my knees. I did the whole thing. There's no connection when you're a kid. You do what you're told to do. After Father, the priest Dan, raped me for a decade, and my father would not help me when things happened. Instead, he was fairly violent himself at times. And then to talk about Jesus Christ being my loving Father, it did not work. So when I found myself in the hands of a pedophile nun, which I'm sure is not a topic that's talked about a lot in domestic violence, I fell hook, line, and sinker. I mean, she was my spiritual director. She had a title, and my spiritual mentor. And she was going to, lead my way into the convent. She led my way into her bed, and she was not only violent, I didn't even know what was going on, and she drugged me. So I was drugged the first time, and ended up going to that for many, many, many years of my life as a way to escape. So for me, spirituality became the nun. She was my connection, and all of her friends, and all the things that we did together, and we were so, And meanwhile, there's a bunch of people, nuns, sleeping in a house when a 15-year-old girl is in a bedroom with a sign on the door that says my name and Sister Eileen's. I mean, that's so weird. That was my God. How do you sleep with your God and then have your God smack you around? My spirituality was stolen, not just in my childhood with Father, but it was stolen by the things that happened afterward, and nobody intervened then either. I was definitely terribly messed up. It was something that was stolen from me, my sexuality, my spirituality, my faith. I lost my finances, I lost my family. And I did not set myself up. I ended up in a situation where I lived in a house with a guy. I needed a room, and he was 33. I was 65. So 3 years ago, I was sexually assaulted by a guy again. And he got away with it again. The priest got away with it. The nun got away with it. The priest that she gave me to got away with it. I found myself in relationships, and I do say these relationships, those were not relationships, those were sexual abuse. But I found myself in relationships with people, friends, getting very close, and, BFF, they're my friend forever. And when I started to speak about things like this, they ghosted me. It's happened a lot in my life. So I'm pretty particular now about who I talk to. When I was a kid, and the violence from the priest started, I withdrew and I lost my voice. Also indicative of that is that I was getting A's in school and I went to F's, and nobody ever asked me why. I went from the front row to the last row because they couldn't understand what I was saying. So I was put in the back row with people who might have problems speaking or thinking. And I spent 8 years there. Since 1994, I reported the abuse to the Catholic Church. I think that's the first time I got my voice back. They ignored me. They minimized it. They threw me out. I went back, and I went back again. And the fact is, they've never given me restorative justice, but they didn't know they gave me a voice because I'm so angry now. This doesn't happen just to me. This isn't just in the Catholic Church. Domestic violence can happen in a Catholic church or in a home. It happened in my home. It happened in my church. It's all over the place. So when they shut me down, something opened up, and I've been following it ever since. I was a child of secrets. My mother was an alcoholic. My father was a rageaholic. There was a lot of money in the house. We looked great from the outside, and we better act great from the outside. Don't hang your dirty laundry outside for the neighbors to see. What goes on in this house stays in this house. It's set up for me, an adult who walked into a lifetime of secrets. And then when the priest raped me, I had no one to go to. I already knew there was no one to go. Besides that he threatened me, with death and hurting my mother, I still don't think I would have gone to anyone. It set me up for a world of secrets, silence, that has affected every relationship I've ever had because I don't trust people. And if that's not a core issue of someone who's been sexually abused, tell me what is. So I don't have specific, I didn't grow up with boundaries. I grew up with walls. And I have fed the walls with alcohol and drugs and other people's problems. Now I'm doing my own. I'm working on my own issues. Because everything is connected to everything. And then anybody that I touch or get to know or become friends with, I'm affecting them. My silence, my secrets, my lack of being present to the moment, because I'm full of fear. I think we all are. I am full of fear. As a sexual abuse survivor, I am full of fear. Fear of going to sleep at night. That relates right back to the childhood. Fear of failure. The weirdest one that I have is fear of success, because I'm succeeding right now in various ways in my life. I don't know what the future is going to be. I don't really want to know because I have fear that I'm going to succeed. If that's not connected to childhood, adverse experiences, we're afraid to be good, we're afraid to be bad, we're afraid to have fears, we're afraid to speak, we're afraid to be silent. My experience. Those are my experiences. I called myself a victim, forever. Mm-hmm. I didn't really recognize the connotation of the word. Semantics vocabulary is important. I didn't have the vocabulary of abuse. I did not have the vocabulary of abuse, so I could not speak to people and tell them what was happening. The importance of words. Do what you want with this. They told me I was a lesbian because I was sexually abused and hit by a nun. They told me I was a lesbian. I didn't know if I was a lesbian or not. That word has a friggin' lot of power. And they called me worse than that. So if you take that word and then you take restorative justice and survivor and victim, I see such a connotation between that. I couldn't say the word lesbian. Well, I couldn't say the word survivor either. What does that mean, survivor? I didn't know. I was a victim. And then as I got more into the scene and speaking and learning from people that know way more than I do, I'm a survivor. Get the hell out of my way if you don't believe it. I'm a survivor. I survived alcohol, I survived drugs, I survived my family leaving me. Oh my God, I could list, wow. I lost my spirituality over this. I got that back. I'm working on everything else. To me, the spirituality is most important. I could not say survivor more than I could say spirituality. Now I'm a survivor, and I can list how many things I've survived. And I don't need to argue it with anybody. I know what I've survived. And before I started to survive, I had all the right books. I had the right crystals. I had the right sayings, the affirmations all over the place. And I had a yoga mat that I never used. But I had all the right stuff. And again, just like not understanding the power that a survivor has against the legal system. We don't understand. I did not understand what was happening. If you are a survivor, domestic violence, sexual violence, whatever kind of violence, childhood. If you call yourself a survivor, this is my belief only. It's our job to speak up, if only to one person, because we can change one person's life. We have that ability. I believe you. Those words are so important. I believe you. If someone had said that to me, my whole life would have taken a different trajectory. I had to prove everything. To a survivor today, and I speak to them every day on the phone, I speak to them at conferences, and I say the same thing. Phone or conference, it's the same message. Talk to some person. Go to some person. Don't tell me there's not one trusted person in your life. If you have to hire them and call them your therapist, then do that. You need to speak this out and then follow, the energy of it. To be silent now equals death. Death of something, spirituality, finances, family, faith, but death. I was walking dead. I don't wish to go back there. I'm never going back there.